Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, the chairman of Assembly Judiciary, Steve Yeager, joins us for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Assemblyman Steve Yeager. He is chairman of Assembly Judiciary. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here, Sam. Thank you.
So we have so much to get to. Let's start out with Washoe County DA Chris Hicks was on the program last week, and because of the budget considerations at this point in time, he was concerned about the criminal reform bill that was passed in the last session, that there are costs coming on board at the beginning of July. Is there any way, do you even have an interest in attempting to mitigate any of those costs associated with this new law?
No, I don't think that's necessary or appropriate. And in fact, many of the jurisdictions, and I can't speak for Washoe, but I know here in Clark, many of the district attorneys have already been complying with the mandates of Assembly Bill 236, even though it isn't in effect. They've changed their practices and their decision-making process. I don't see this current crisis as a reason to delay what is otherwise agreed upon bipartisan supported policy. And in addition to that, happy to report, and I think Mr. Hicks knows this, that the Crime and Justice Institute actually has grant money available to help with the implementation of Assembly Bill 236. And if I'm not mistaken, at the last Sentencing Commission meeting, Mr. Hicks's office actually applied for some of that grant money to hire somebody in their office to help coordinate that. So there are funds available coming in to help, and a lot of what was in there were really changes in practices more so than things that are going to require funding. So, I think anyone who wants to delay that implementation of that bill and use the pandemic as the reason why, I think these are folks generally who just were not supportive of the effort in the beginning and are looking for a way around it. But I don't have any interest in that, and I don't think it would be appropriate.
Are you comfortable with the early release of prisoners due to COVID?
I think it depends. I mean, I watched the Sentencing Commission hearing, the last couple. I didn't watch all of them because they were very long, but I think it's always good for the state to be prepared, especially in a circumstance like this. Fortunately, we haven't had the kind of outbreaks that we've seen in other correctional institutions around the country, but that's not to say that we wouldn't. So I think the effort of the Sentencing Commission was just to say, look, let's have a plan if we need to do that, so we're not behind the 8 ball if there's an outbreak. So, I'd be comfortable with that. But of course, it depends on the individual. It depends on their circumstance. I don't think a blanket order for just releasing prisoners from prison makes sense. That has to be an individualized determination. But I certainly think there are people there that would do well out in the community being supervised, assuming they had the support. So I am supportive of the notion of being prepared and doing it in a reasoned and balanced way if that time comes.
And one of the things that goes against this is that, if you release prisoners into the community at this point in time, there are no jobs available. In Clark and Washoe, there are no homes available. So potentially, aren't you creating more problems by doing early release if you don't have that support?
Well, I think if you don't have that support, you potentially could be, but let's keep in mind we're talking about upwards of 14,000 prisoners in the Nevada Department of Corrections, and that's not even to speak to those in county jails. And not all of those are in situations where they wouldn't have a place to go. I agree that jobs are going to be hard to come by, but having a place to live and having a support system in the community, even if it doesn't include a job, those are things that help inmates be successful. So I think, when you hear someone make a statement that says, everyone's better off in prison, I think that's very short-sighted, because certainly there are people that have support systems available in the community. They just haven't, gotten to the point where they're going to be released. And in some cases, some of these people have already been granted parole, and it's just a matter of finding a place for them to live. So they've already been deemed worthy and safe enough to be out in the community. There's just some legwork to be done there. So, that's why I think an individualized approach, because certainly there are inmates who I think would be successful if we release them into good situations. But we don't want a situation where you're just opening the door and you're putting people out on the streets and saying good luck. Like that's never going to work, and certainly not in the midst of this pandemic.
You're also the member of the Assembly Commerce and Labor Committee. Were you surprised that the governor put off, at least by 2 weeks, the opening of casinos when so many other businesses are reopening with the distancing, et cetera, in place? And the casinos, led by Matt Maddox of Wynn Resorts, certainly have laid out opening plans. Were you surprised that he didn't go ahead and say, yeah, we're ready to open by Memorial Day? Because I know several casinos were planning openings by Memorial Day.
I wasn't surprised. I'll tell you this, I don't envy the position that Governor Sisolak is in. I mean, these are just unprecedented times, certainly in my lifetime and perhaps many lifetimes. So, he's got some really, really tough decisions to make. And I think he's done a fantastic job being reasoned and measured, trusting the science, trusting very smart people around him. I think he's done a great job. But, whatever he does, you're going to have people that disagree with you and are upset. I think that's just a function of being in politics and certainly being in the governor's mansion. I think with the casinos, it's interesting, right? Because we have casinos here that are geared to, and I'm speaking particularly in Las Vegas, but also in Washoe County. Some of our casinos are geared towards locals, but a lot of our casinos depend, quite a bit on tourism. And I think the question is, if they were to open up now, are we going to have people that are coming to the casinos? So, I think that's a consideration as well. Are people feeling comfortable enough to travel? So I guess I like the fact that he's being cautious with that, because the last thing we would want to do is open up a casino prematurely and have, an outbreak that of course is going to make national, if not international news. And I think really, really hurt us in the long run. So as much as it is very painful right now, and it sure is painful, I think looking towards the future, this is the more reasoned scientific approach that hopefully is going to get out of the situation sooner, because the worst thing that would happen is we open early, something terrible happens, and we have to scale back on all of that. I think that would really be a second punch to the gut that we would just be very ill-equipped to take.
Are you surprised then that San Diego opened up with Caesar's property down there that they manage? Idaho's opened up, Montana's got slot routes opening up, and not only have they opened up, but they're seeing, even though they have social distancing, the handle is, pre the COVID crisis numbers.
I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that they opened up. That's a very individualized determination that's being made by governors or local officials. But Las Vegas is different. I mean, we are the capital, the gaming capital of the world, the entertainment capital of the world, and in some ways, I think we have a lot more to lose if we open up and it doesn't go well, or we become a hot spot here. I think that's going to really damage us in the long run. And that's not to say it wouldn't potentially damage those places, but I think their economies just rely so much less on gaming revenue, on tourism, certainly not in the way Nevada does. So, I think Governor Sisolak's trying to do its best for the state. And again, people are going to disagree, and that's certainly the right to disagree. But I think he's coming from a place of wanting to be safe and to protect people.
Is the one-size-all policy a good one, do you think? Because there's a lot of people around the state who are saying, hey, we don't have an issue in Elko, we don't have an issue in Eureka. For the most part, I mean, the majority of cases in Washoe County have been from 2 nursing homes, that we could see, even almost like a practice rollout in some of these other areas. Because, I mean, let's face it, 2 weeks from now, we would run the same risks that we would run if we opened today.
I think that's right, although it's interesting in Nevada because, I think you have to ask yourself, if you were to open up gaming in one particular location that was not Las Vegas, we do have people that travel around the state. And I think part of the calculus is how do we protect the entire state? Because, of course, this virus will travel as people travel. So, if you open up gaming somewhere and it's going to bring folks in from other parts of the state, they're of course going to travel back home, interact with folks. So I think in that sense, a statewide directive makes a lot of sense. That being said, I think it seems to me that Governor Sisolak has really tried to empower local governments, at least in the sense that they can be more restrictive. But he's included a number of them on his committees that he's formed to advise him. And I think if the time becomes appropriate, we'll probably see a little bit more flexibility for some of those local places. I think in the governor's last press conference, if I'm not mistaken, he had mentioned they were letting some of the restaurants in the casinos open in some of the smaller places because there weren't other restaurants around. Whereas here in Las Vegas, I don't think that's happened as of yet. So I think that's one example of really tailoring the solution to the community. But hopefully we'll get beyond this pretty soon and we can all get back to something approaching normal life.
That would be great, but I think it's going to be a heck of a slog. Let's take a break. More with Assemblyman Steve Yeager right after this timeout.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you.
I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Because of UMC, I'm putting my free time to good use.
Because of UMC, she keeps me on my toes.
Because of UMC and this guy, I'm here.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with the Speaker Pro Tem of the Nevada Assembly, Steve Yeager. I'm hearing from quite a few people at this point in time about 2 special sessions coming up. What can you tell us about these and what the topics would be for those?
Well, I have heard all sorts of rumors ranging from 0 special sessions to, multiple special sessions. So it's interesting what's out there on the wire. I think it's too early to know for sure. If you ask me to predict, I think we're probably going to need a special session to address some of what's going on. Exactly when that's going to happen, what it'll look like depends somewhat on where we are. I think personally for me, I want to make sure we know what we're looking at before we would jump into a special session to make sure that we're prepared. And, of course, the governor's the most likely one to call that special session. We can call ourselves in a special session, but that requires a 2/3 vote, and that's never happened in the history of the state. But, I guess stay tuned. Hopefully, as we move into the next phase of this, phase 2, we'll have a better sense of what might be required on the state level. And then, of course, as you're aware, Sam, there's some logistical issues there if we're going to try to conduct a special session in terms of how do we do that responsibly while respecting the social distancing mandates and making sure that we're not being a hotspot up at the legislature. So I think there's still some T's that need to be crossed and I's that need to be dotted before we get to that point. And when we get to that point, and if we get to that point, I look forward to going up to Carson City and getting through that.
Senator Kekeffer was on the program a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about from a fiscal point of view, and I know you're not on the fiscal committees, but you're certainly aware of the ramifications, that if we don't have a special session by July, or even prior to July, in June, to take care of issues both now and for the upcoming fiscal year, that will just create more problems. So would you like to see the governor push forward with a special session sooner than later?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, if we have to have a special session, I would like to do it sooner rather than later. But again, we still have some real issues with how do we conduct a special session? How does everyone from Las Vegas, who is 2/3 of the legislature, get to Carson City? Where would we stay in Carson City? So these are some things that I think have to be worked out. And I think the other part of that, and Senator Kekeffer knows this. I think he spoke about it at the Interim Finance Committee. We need to figure out from our budget folks and our legislative folks what exactly we're looking at in terms of budget shortfall. We have projections right now, but those projections are based mainly on the gaming percentage tax. We still don't have numbers for sales tax and live entertainment tax. Those lag a little bit behind. So I think once we get a sense of exactly what that number is, that'll help us look at what resources do we have. Obviously, we know we have the rainy day fund that's been transferred over. But what might be coming down from the federal government? How can that money be used? Does it require legislative action? So I certainly agree with the sentiment that we have to be responsible and make sure we're not leaving our state agencies in the lurch with no direction about where to go. But we also have to be responsible in the fact that we have to be ready. We have to know what we're looking at. I mean, we could call a special session tomorrow, but we're going to be sitting up there waiting for projections. And I think that would be a colossal waste of resources on the state level, because it's not cheap to go into special session. There's a lot of costs there, a lot of travel, a lot of staff time. So we need to make sure we're ready and we do it right.
And of course we have an actual legislative session coming up, roughly a year from now, 8 months from now. Obviously, even with the casinos reopening and because of the social distancing, we're going to see half the people required at the properties. El Dorado Resorts, who are taking over Caesars, and that looks like that is going to proceed, is already talking about the efficiencies that they've already wrung out of the deal before that's even closed. You're going to see a tremendous amount of unemployment ongoing. At this point in time, the House has put their bill together for another multi-trillion-dollar bill. The Senate is balking at it at this point in time. So, are you concerned, and what effect do you think it would have if there is not federal relief for the states, especially on the unemployment level, going forward?
There's going to have to be federal relief for the states. I mean, and it's not just Nevada. I mean, you've seen across the country we have this record unemployment, and as you noted, I think in many places it's going to take a long time to recover, but particularly in places that depend on tourism. You think Nevada, you think Hawaii as 2 states that are super tourism dependent. So that money just has to be there. And, I know our federal delegation knows that, and same with other states. If we don't get some kind of federal relief, I don't see what we do as a state. I mean, we don't have the ability to just print money and spend it like the federal government does. And I'm not saying I'd want to do that, but we have a constitutional requirement to live within our means. And, if our means are cut by, 25, 30%, that's going to be a real problem on the state level. And so I don't have a good answer for you other than, we're depending on that federal money, and I think it's going to happen. And, I think we'll have to look at all contingencies if it doesn't happen, but I don't have a magic answer for you because we just don't have a stockpile of money sitting somewhere that we could fill these budget shortfalls.
The Fed chairman spoke last week and again on 60 Minutes last night, talking about that arenas, large concert venues, conventions were going to be literally the last thing to come back. And he's talking about end of 2021, perhaps even into 2022. Looking at the next legislative session, I can imagine a lot of people would fancy resigning at this point and letting somebody else take over.
Yeah, it's a tough time to be in this position for sure. But we have to take the good with the bad. We're elected to do a job, and unfortunately, the job has gotten considerably tougher. I think for the next 2-3 legislative sessions, there are going to be some really difficult decisions to be made. I do think we'll come back at some point, but as you said, the traditional huge stadiums, the shows, the nightclubs, the things that really drive, particularly the Las Vegas economy, it's going to be a while before that can come back in its normal form. And one that makes me really sad because I really enjoy what Las Vegas has to offer, as do our many tourists. But I think, if we can do this responsibly, maybe we can start up a little bit slower and still start to layer some of that in. But I mean, you're right, Sam, there's no way around it. It's going to be really tough at the legislature having to try to budget when a lot of the revenue is just not going to be there. But, we're going to do the best that we can and try to keep people as whole as possible. And, we're all going to have to sacrifice, unfortunately, but it's not unique to Nevada, and it's something entirely out of our control.
You're saying 2 to 3 legislative sessions. That would put us out 5 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, it is. And, maybe in my mind, I was calculating a potential special session there, but obviously 2021 session is going to be difficult. And, I think we'll just have to see, who knows if I'm going to be around. I haven't won my election yet this time either, but assuming that I'm still around, hopefully that recovery is going to be coming between the 21 and 23 sessions. But, at the same time, I think we have to be prepared in case it doesn't recover as quickly as we'd like for how we're going to keep the state running and be able to provide, the basic governmental services that people rely upon.
All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back with Steve Yeager after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you.
I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, our remaining time now with Assemblyman Steve Yeager. You spoke about Hawaii. Not only is Hawaii devastating their own tourism industry by requiring people to do a 14-day quarantine upon arriving and arresting people who don't live up to that, they are also responsible for a huge amount of business in Las Vegas, the city, and that is going to be devastating for Las Vegas because Boyd is not even planning at this point in time to reopen their 3 downtown properties.
Yeah, there's no way around that. You're absolutely right. I mean, Nevada and Hawaii and Las Vegas in particular have been linked for a long time. I mean, that's why they call us the 9th island, the state of Nevada. But, I think, again, they're trying to be responsible. We're trying to be responsible. And my hope is that this very, very painful time right now will help us recover quicker in the future and help us get back to business as usual. But it's definitely going to be painful for both states in the next, 6 to 12 to 18 to 24 months.
Assemblyman Steve Yeager, always a pleasure to talk to you, sir. Sorry under these circumstances, but always thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And we'll be right back. A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.